everyone. My name is Diana Hawkins. I'm the Executive Director for Hawthorn Neighborhood Council. As you can tell, I have a cold or whatever, the flu. So I'm not going to talk too much today. So you guys won't have to listen to me. But Miss Ann and Mr. Clarence have a really dynamite agenda for us today. And I'm glad that we were able to get Dr. Hart to be with us this month since, some people get that day and night mixed up. I'm with you, doctor. So I feel you, so that's a little joke between us. But anyway, Miss Ann, I am gonna let you take it away because I believe Miss Louisa is here.
Yes, good morning, everyone. And Diana, I hope you continue to get better and better and better in terms of your flu, cold thing, whatever it is that you have. Good morning, everybody. Good to see everyone. We are going to be continuing to bring people in on the call. We usually have kind of a glut, and we're getting one right now between now and about 7:40, so we'll be getting more people on. Our first order of business today, though, is going to be to bring Louisa on to do the COVID and other health updates. So Louisa is here with us, and welcome, Louisa. And what do you have to tell us this month?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So I have a couple of things. You might have seen not a couple of weeks ago and then just this week that CDC has changed its guidelines for COVID isolation. And so I wanted to just walk through those. I also, the community, the group that meets to look at vaccines met the last week and made some recommendations around COVID vaccine for 65 and older. So talk a little bit about that. And then I want to we're doing a strategic plan for our opioid settlement funds that the city is receiving. And we're doing a lot of different engagement with focus groups and interviews, but we also have a community survey, and I'll put the link in the chat and ask that you guys share with your networks. I'll also send you Diana and I'll send you a flyer that we have so that you can also share that with folks. So in terms of the COVID guidelines change, I think over the last last year, and as COVID has sort of receded, the beginning of the COVID pandemic has receded from everybody's mind. And I think CDC is looking at what the messaging can be that people will actually follow and understand. And as we learn more about COVID as well. So the new guidelines are basically similar to what the guidelines are for RSV and flu and other respiratory viruses. And the idea is basically if you have symptoms, stay home. Do not be out around people. If you're having fever, or not even if you're not having fever, but if you are having cough and sneezing and those kinds of respiratory symptoms, stay home. And stay home for 24 hours past when your symptoms have resolved. And then after that, you can go back to your normal activities, but take extra precautions for at least 5 days. So that might mean, wear a mask, be mindful of if you're in crowded spaces or avoiding maybe that. So it's really what they've recommended all along for flu and RSV, and now COVID is folded into that. So there's not that 5-day isolation period anymore. But really being mindful of your symptoms, and if you have symptoms, stay home, wait 24 hours after they've resolved, and then take some additional, some extra precautions for 5 days as you're going on about your life. The other thing that happened is the immunization committee met, and they have come out with an initial recommendation, and CDC hasn't implemented it, but come out with an initial recommendation that those 65 and older should get a COVID booster this spring, in the spring. And so not everybody, but those 65 and older. And I think the idea is that they're seeing immunity wane in those that are older, but we also know that having the vaccine protects against hospitalization and severe disease, especially among those that are older. And so that is, so not for everybody, but for a specific group. And we'll see what the recommendation actually says, but that was the initial recommendation coming out of the ACIP meeting. So the committee that looks at immunizations. And then, as I said, the other piece that's happening in the health department right now is that we are doing a strategic plan to look at how to spend the opioid settlement funds. If, just a quick overview of what those are. There were, several lawsuits that have been settled by the states with producers of, distributors of opioids, pharmacies. So there's, in two of them that have been currently settled, and there are agreements with states of how funds are going to be sent to states, and then from the state to local jurisdictions. And so right now, with the settlements that have been agreed upon, the city of Minneapolis has an agreement with the state of Minnesota, and we'll be getting about $18 million over 18 years. Now, when you really think about it, it's not that much per year. And it doesn't begin to, it's not, a drop in trying to address the opioid epidemic, but it is resources. And so we are wanting to hear from community what, it's really the simple questions, really thinking of prevention, treatment, recovery, how to split the funds into those three areas. And we'll be working with the state and with Hennepin County. Hennepin County is getting, I think, it's 42 million, and then, the state will have funds. So there's all sorts, and we'll want to make sure that we're working in tandem so that we're not, we're using our resources in the best way possible and not duplicating services. But we do want to hear from Minneapolis residents what their thoughts are and what they think is most important. So I'll put that link in the chat, and I'm happy to stand for questions if anybody has any.
Does anyone have any questions for Louisa? I want to let folks know that next month our featured speaker is going to be the Minneapolis Public Health Commissioner, Damone Chaplin. So he will be here as well. Next month is Public Health Month. So we're going to focus on kind of his perspective about public health, what he's trying to do in his job, what he's working on, but he will be here to talk about all of those issues. So you'll want to make sure that everybody knows that and comes and listens to him. But Louisa will also be here to do her usual report. So any questions for Louisa?
And I see there's a question, the new treatment protocols for seniors with COVID. So I don't know that there's new treatment protocols. I think that for individuals that have are immunocompromised or are older, the Paxlovid is still recommended as a way to if you test positive, to have less effects from the disease. So the treatment per se has not changed. That those treatment recommendations haven't changed. What has changed is really the isolation guidelines and what to do if you get COVID, not how to get treated, but how to stay home, in terms of staying home or not staying home, those kinds of things. Does that make sense, DB?
Okay, anyone else? Thank you, Louisa.
Thank you.
She says thanks. All right. I want to remind everybody to put your name in the chat, your name and your contact information, because that's how we keep track of how many people attend the huddle each month. And it's very helpful for us to remind you to do that, and also remind everybody to keep muted if you're not speaking. That just also keeps the sound background noise down when we're taping the huddle. So. Normally right now we have our safety report from the 4th Precinct, but Bill Magnuson is not here today. He is sick, so he will not be able to attend today, so we will hear from him next month. But now we are going to move on to our report from Human. Clarence.
Thanks, Ann. Let me share a little bit with you what we've done since our last meeting. We were at the CCC with the City of Minneapolis Community Connection, and there we were able to connect introduce Hawthorn to about 3 other different neighborhoods. And hopefully they have been in contact with Diana. But I think some of the things that we're doing, other people are interested in doing. We also, with Sabathani, we were at Sabathani to celebrate their 60th anniversary, where we were able to do some things with them. The other thing that I want to share with you is that Dartmouth College is going to be with us next Thursday. They're coming. Their MPH students are coming to see and think, and this will be at the Center for Changing Lives, but they're going to come to see how do we connect and interface with community. So we'll be able to talk a lot about the work that we also are doing with Center for Changing Lives, as well as what we are doing with Hawthorn. So a lot of times people are asking us about how do we do what we do, and so we're very happy to be able to share that news with you. The other thing that I think is really exciting for us is that we're part of a national health study. We're being asked to go into our community and find and interview individuals and ask them what are their 3 primary health concerns. And so we're getting ready to do that. And what's going to be nice is that it will also be CDC is involved. And so, I mean, so the interesting thing about this particular study was that we were approached. They asked us to do it. Then they said what they wanted to do was they wanted to collect the data. They wanted to analyze the data. They're going to give the data back to the community, which really excited me because most times when researchers talk about collecting data, they talk about collecting it and hoarding it. But this time they're specifically giving it back to the community so that the community would be able to have the data to go along with the narrative, which is really what we're about. And then part of what's exciting about this event today is that one of our partners, the monitors, Mr. Henry Crosby is here. He'll have to tell you about that one. But we're definitely looking to take a look at Black men, African American men, and ask them what are their 3 primary health concerns, and to be able to to collect that information, and they're going to give it back to the monitors because they have self-identified that they want to do some health initiatives. And so I'm excited about this, and I think that part of it again talks about how we are as a collaborative. We're working together to make things happen. So that's my report. I'm sure I got other things that's going on, but those are things that I would like to let you know. And if you want to be involved or connected, I'll make sure that you get the information. Thank you. Any questions for me?
Clarence, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Oh, yeah. And also, we're going to be working with Carmen. Yeah, we're working with Carmen. We're working with her on a project with Hennepin County, as well as with Jim Barrett, who we met last week. I mean, so we're making Hawthorn is making a lot of connections, and I just want you to know that. And so, yeah, so we're doing a lot of stuff.
That's great. Nice. Well, good. Thank you. Any questions or comments for Clarence? Anybody? You know how to reach out to Clarence between meetings if you want to, too. So I think you should reach out if something comes up that you want to talk with him about. All right. Now we are moving on. Did somebody have something? No. Okay. Now we are moving on to really the favored part of the program in so many ways, which is honoring the people who make us better. And we have 4 people this month we want to talk a bit about and honor and spend a little time on. And I think we also want to spend a little time on one of our recipients from last month who couldn't join us, who Clarence is going to follow up on. So shall we start there, Clarence? Do you want to start with your person, Dr. Hart?
Dr. Hart. Okay. Dr. Hart. Dr. Jim Hart. Okay. We are so honored with UMAN and Hawthorn. We're so honored to have Dr. Hart. Dr. Hart has been a treasure for me personally. I met Dr. Hart when he came to an international mental health conference that we held in Minneapolis. And he didn't say much. He just kind of said, "Oh, okay, how are you?" Kind of, sort of. But throughout that period of that time, I don't know what year that was. That's a long time ago. But he's always been engaged and asking me about things and trying to mentor me, actually, kind of quietly, mentoring me and giving me suggestions. And so we were just so honored last month to give him a plaque because This man is what we call in human a treasure. And I just wanted to make sure that we give him the opportunity to just share, because a lot of you may not know him, but he's a quiet force. I think, Sean, you and I had lunch with him a couple times. Him and Arthur Himmelman. I mean, so there are people that are investing in me and us, and I think that it's important that we share them with the rest of the community. So, Dr. Hart.
Yeah, well, good morning again. Thanks for those kind words, Clarence. I'm going to hold up the plaque here. You've seen these before. Clarence and I also served on the Minneapolis Public Health Advisory Committee together for a number of years, and you are a treasure too for me. It goes both ways. I'm going to just read the plaque. You've seen this before, but it says, "We honor you because you are committed to helping our community to become healthier." Well, the truth is that communities pretty much produce their own health. When I got out of medical school back in 1975, I think it was still the era, where we physicians thought we'd go out and just fix everything. Turns out not to be that easy. Health is really produced mostly by communities, and we try to patch up the holes a little bit down the road, but you guys are producing your own health. So it's been a pleasure for me to work with Clarence. I do quite a bit of stuff over in the Rondo neighborhood in St. Paul, not so much in Minneapolis, but it all comes together, I guess, at some point. So anyway, thanks again, and I'll hang around for a while here.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Hart.
I was on my way. Here I am. Thank you so much. It's great to see you, and it's nice to have people here. I learn every month about new people in the community who do things, who sometimes we don't otherwise hear about. So welcome, and thanks for all the work that you do. I have the honor of introducing and talking about a fellow from Asia Media Access, Stephen Liu. I have never met you, Stephen. If you would put your cameras on, we can see you. I think Diana always reminds us it's a way to honor the people who we're honoring by seeing your faces. And I learned a little bit about Stephen today. He's the Director of Media Technology at Asia Media Access. And I know a little bit about Asian Media Access because in my work at the Minneapolis Youth Coordinating Board, we work with Asian Media Access a bit. We were able to help give them some money through the ARPA funds a couple of years ago to do the work that they do. But they work with Asian American and Asian young people to talk about what it is to be Asian and Asian American in Minneapolis and in the world. And they do it through creative means, through media. And they do tremendous work and have really, I think, broken a lot of barriers with our young people and with people in the community. And so I was thrilled to see that that we were giving an award to Asian Media Access and to Stephen. So, Stephen, while I put your plaque up here for all to see, I would like to introduce you and have you say a few words about your work.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for some honor, and I know that we for me it's mostly Angie.
Well, yes, of course. It's also Angie. And
Yeah,
I think, and Stephen, am I right that Angie's the founder? This organization's been around since 1992. So it's a long-term organization.
Yeah, it's actually between Angie and I and one other friend, one other colleague that, sat around the table and signed a paper. For me, it's an honor to receive this award that, for me, it's like, I'm just doing things. I know you do, but yeah, I do appreciate that, Asia Media Access, it's, again, being honored as well. And that over the pandemic, of course, things changed a little bit, a lot. And the young people that we used to work, in person with, didn't have a chance to meet with them for 3 years, and we're getting back, and most of them have graduated and kind of went on to something else. So we're kind of in the rebuilding stage, reaching out to schools again, and then and getting in touch with them, and then going to schools right now and working with them after school program and so forth, and kind of starting from there again. But and it's been rewarding. At the same time, I can feel that I'm getting a little older every year. They keep us young and make us sometimes feel old as well. So, but I'm so honored to have received this award, and thank you so much for your work in the neighborhood, and recognizing individuals, and then even just feel like I'm just a regular guy to feel special. So.
Stephen, thank you for your tremendous work and for Asian Media Access. And
so I need to add to that. I need to add to that, Anne, because Stephen, I just want to thank you and Angie and the rest of the crew for over the last year building this relationship with Hawthorn. You guys have really made a difference in our community and reaching our Asian residents. So thank you.
Can I say something, Ann?
Go ahead, Clarence.
Yeah, I want to double down on that. I just want to thank Stephen for his humbleness. I mean, the fact is that we've had a chance to work with them, and they are stars. And what I mean by that is that they're willing to work with the community. And I know he started off saying that he worked with the Asian community, but he also works with us, and he does some really, really good things. And I just want to let him know how much I personally appreciate working with them.
Thank you,
and
Claire.
Robert, I believe we gave Angie one of these awards of recognition earlier. Yes. So we haven't forgotten Angie either. But you guys are great. And I appreciate your work. So thank you so much. And I appreciate you coming today. So thank you. All right. Anybody else want to add anything? All right. Now we want to move on, and I'm going to do this award for Diana because she, as you can hear, is having a little trouble with her voice. And we want to recognize Robert Thompson. And I'm going to bring Robert up here on the screen. And where are you, Robert? I think this is going to be you. It is pretty good. Okay. And Robert, I'm going to read what Diana sent me because I don't know you, but I want to make sure I get things right here from what she made sure I had. Robert has worked with and for nonprofit organizations for 4 decades as a staff, volunteer, board member, and through his decades-long work with NRP and the City of Minneapolis. Robert's first door knocking with a neighborhood organization was as a volunteer in 1984 for Hawthorn Area Community Council, which is now the Hawthorn Neighborhood Council. Robert worked as a neighborhood support specialist and trainer for the landmark neighborhood revitalization and managed neighborhood programs for the City of Minneapolis. Currently, Robert provides accounting, training, and coaching support services for almost 30 nonprofits, including neighborhood organizations throughout Minneapolis. Robert's personal mission has been to empower residents through community-driven resident-based planning and organizing. And for that work, sometimes work which gets forgotten or not noticed, we want to recognize you, Robert, because it's tremendous backbone work that makes everything else work. So thank you, Robert, and here's your word of recognition. We appreciate the work you do. Would you like to say a few words, Robert?
Sure, yeah, and I'm here with my wife, Michelle, too, who's been my partner for many years and my support. I've worked with nonprofits and especially neighborhood organizations for a long time, and over that period, I've become extraordinarily appreciative of all of the work that neighborhood organizations and the resident volunteers can do. One of the things that we did at NRP, our goal was to support and empower residents to really be able to have a strong voice in what happens in their community, and to be able to determine their community's future. And one of the things that we found with this great experiment that was the NRP program was that when you involve residents and give them a real say, they can do amazing things. So I've always been astounded at the work that residents and their compassion and efforts are in improving their communities. And there were times when I was at NRP where we were just thinking, oh my God, we can't believe what they've come up with. This is never going to work. And amazingly, it does. And so what I've always tried to do was to uphold this idea of not just resident participation, but real resident-driven planning in the community and as a part of the city of Minneapolis, but of really any city's planning work. Residents are there on the ground talking with their neighbors. They have great ideas. They have great awareness and great insights into what's going on. And I think when the city doesn't listen to the community, I think it does so at its peril and at the community's peril. I, again, really myself, I see myself in some ways as a bystander to the really great work. I've worked, there's 70 neighborhood organizations across Minneapolis. They're all driven by volunteer board members who are elected by the community. And just wherever you look, just doing great work in their communities. And so that's, I think, really what's to be applauded. That just hold that up, hopefully you see that. It's a beautiful, by the way, beautiful plaque. I really appreciate it. So thank you, not just for this, but really thank you for all of the work that you do in your community. It really does make a difference. I'll add one last thing is that I do a lot of research and analysis, and I've read a lot of research articles about neighborhood organizations and the work that people do in the community. And, it affects everything from public health to safety, and people's sense of well-being. So that community work is just important at so many levels, but it's something that I think the city unfortunately has forgotten. So it's one of the things that I keep driving towards is keep reminding everybody just the important role that neighborhood organizations and volunteers like yourself play. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Robert. And I think Diana has unmuted, which tells me she might want to say something.
I just want to say I could publicly say this now. Here's a person that I met so many years ago that had been a mentor, a guidance, and a good friend to me. So thank you, Robert. And Hawthorn does appreciate the fact that you have been with us all of these years. Before Mr. Clarence come up, I just need to say, oh no, Miss Carmen is next. Never mind.
Yes. Good. Oh, I see. Okay, you want to wait till Clarence's turn. Okay. Anybody else would like to say something to Robert or about the work of Robert? All right. Thank you, Robert. And Michelle, nice to have you there too. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Carmen. Buenos dias, Carmen. And it is, you've exhausted pretty much my Spanish with that, but I try to be hospitable.
Learn Spanish.
I know a tiny bit of Spanish. Anyway, Carmen, you're on.
Thank you so much. It's been such an uplifting morning. I just love these mornings. I'm full of energy. I'm full of gratitude for all these unsung heroes. And today, my unsung hero is Rosita Black. And like many of you, with those that you honor today, Rosita allowed me to enter her fight in our community. As you all know, we face a lot of issues with immigration and lack of data because we're an ethnic group, not a race. And so my heart is so filled to be able to work with Hawthorn and Human because it's been a long time since I feel like, I'm home and recognized. But I would love to introduce Rosita, except I can't pull up her, oh, here we go. Her, all right, thank you so much. So for the past 3 decades, Rosita has worked with families across Minneapolis to inform systems change, reinforce community resilience, and secure a space for community voices to be recognized as the most critical and valuable champions in determining their place and stake in the future of Minnesota. Rosita is currently employed as a family engagement specialist with Hennepin County, where she has worked with immigrant and refugee families on a wide range of issues, especially access to educational opportunities. Previously, Rosita served as an organizer and an administration with, with the Resource Center for the Americas. And prior to working in the public service, her career spanned administration, accounting, hospitality, and international import and export retail. Rosita was born in Colombia. She pursued an education in library sciences. She is a devoted advocate, organizer, critical thinker, storyteller, and facilitator, carrying the light of the stories of generations of Latin American immigrants into forums where they are otherwise excluded. Rosita observes, listens, and delivers passionate wisdom that compels everyone to question their own assumptions. She is a cat lady, an avid reader, and enjoys good bread, gardening, nature, and most notably, she is a loving mother to her only daughter, Armonia, a fiercely intelligent and accomplished mechanical engineer. It's my honor to introduce everyone to Rosita. Rosita, welcome to the Hawthorn Huddle, the little engine that could in North Minneapolis that has just created so many miracles.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was having some problems earlier with the camera and with the sound system. Good morning, everyone. I'm very honored to be part of this amazing group of experienced and committed people to the work of making our communities stronger and better. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Carmen. I truly feel honored. I love the plague. Thank you. It's going to be in a very good place, but it's when you receive a recognition, it makes you reflect on your good deeds and not so good deeds, and all of the things that you should keep doing, and reinforce the work that I'm doing. I work with the Latino community, and after fighting against COVID, our community is learning new ways. So I create spaces for families to meet and receive answers and ask questions and express their uncertainty and fears. And I'll try to help them to solve all of these situations. And our families are becoming highly, I think, accepting the digital era. So it is amazing that we have so many meetings on Zoom like this one with families that are working in restaurants or cleaning offices, and they're listening to our speakers and they're asking questions. And it's a new learning experience for all of us. And I'm very honored to receive this recognition. And thank you very much, Carmen, and thank you, Hawthorn. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosita. Rosita meets every Friday with a group of parents, 30 plus parents. And I've been working with Rosita for about 3 years now, and it took 3 years to have the parents actually trust me through Rosita to talk about opioids and substance use disorder and mental health. So I'm especially, thank you, Diana, and Clarence, I'm especially honored to be able to recognize my sister. Thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias.
Before we go
Thank
to Mr. Clarence, I have to say something about the person that he's going to honor. Because when I first came here, you ever heard the word legend? This man is considered a legend in Minneapolis and all over. I've never met a harder working person in my life than I have in Henry Crosby. Mr. Clarence, take it away.
I was gonna thank you. I was gonna ask Ann, could you put up his plaque, please? And there was something I want to say about this plaque. Okay, I saw another. That's a good looking picture there. But he had another picture where he was fully dressed, and I thought that was one shy brother. But anyway, so this is where we talk about honoring those who make us better. I met Henry a long time ago. And whenever I talk to Henry always says, "Well, I'm just a poor guy from South Chicago," and so that was kind of a connector for me. But as Diana has said, this is a very, very impressive person who has done a lot of things behind the scene that I have personally recognized, and that's one of the reasons why, as Human, we wanted to recognize him today. I think I also met Henry when he was with the United Negro College Fund. So it's been a long time because he's done that. He was over the YMCA, where they created the first center for teen and young people in the country, and he was a part of that. And then now Henry is working with us, and I just mentioned a little bit earlier. He's working with us on this national health study around African American men, and he is taking the lead to do that. And so I am just that those are just a few of the things that he's done. But one of the things, like I said, is that Henry is a very honorable person, in my opinion. He's a very, very honorable person. He's somebody that you can approach, you can talk to. He'll tell you what he thinks, but it's important that it's also important that he is actually trying to make our community better. And so with that, I want to say, Henry, I appreciate you. I thank you. This is one of the ways that we could show you that. And we want to definitely support you and the monitors and whatever else other activities that you have that's making our community healthier. So thank you for accepting this award. So we'll let you have a few words, Henry.
Well, I have just a few, and I want to say thank you to Sister Hawkins and yourself and Mr. Groot. And I am truly humbled and honored and appreciate this time to be recognized. This was not my choice, never my choice to seek any fanfare or accolations. I'm always interested in serving others. I've been very fortunate in my life in a lot of different ways to work with a lot of people. I'm looking at Brother Carlson and Carson and Sean and Toderick and I mean just a lot of people that have been colleagues and confidants in a lot of different ways. And doing community work is something that I've had the privilege to do since I've been here in Minnesota since 1986. Clarence is right. I've always told him I'm just a poor guy from the south side of Chicago that made it. I'm very proud of that. But the real key is that I have a great opportunity to give back, and I don't look for anything in return. Again, I've been very blessed in so many ways, and I just know that sometimes taking a little time to listen and not make judgment on people, give what you can to support people, gives you personal satisfaction that nobody can really put an amount of achievement on. But I know when people say thank you, that means a lot. I've had the extreme pleasure working with so many people on the north side through the YMCA, as Clarence has mentioned, and the Cora McCorvey Health and Wellness Center. And also, yes, my earlier days was with the United Negro College Fund and helping young people have access to higher education. I am a firm believer that knowledge is power. and I will do whatever I can to make that happen. So to the Hawthorn Huddle, to the Youth Coordinating Board, to all of you on this call, I want to just genuinely say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I did not know that this was coming. It was a total surprise. I've been very moved by this. So thank you. I will continue to do my work. I'll be in the backgrounds wherever I need to be. As far as the monitors, the closing point I want to make is the Monitors Club was founded in Minneapolis in 1955. And we're a professional African-American men's organization that works primarily in civic, social, and we do some financial opportunities in helping to provide scholarships to young Black men in our community. We're involved in numerous social and civic opportunities. We've done a superintendent's forum for school superintendents. We've done a law enforcement forum over at Greater Friendship Church with Brother Billy Russell. And we're doing some other things around this health and wellness initiative that Clarence mentioned. I am very fortunate to be able to be an advocate for health and wellness for men of color here in the Twin Cities. I am myself a COVID survivor over 3 years now, and I know that the whole conversation that we had earlier about COVID is important. That's all I could say about that. But I am also concerned about Black men in our community and our access to health care and making sure that we take advantage of the access points that we have. I'm very concerned about prostate cancer and the fact that so many of our friends now who are in the fourth quarters of their lives are having experiences. And there's a lot of resources out there. Clarence and I have partnered together with Dr. Billy Russell to begin a conversation on how we can, as he mentioned, find the top 3 issues for Black men around healthcare so that we can help focus on those. The list is long, okay? So we can't cover everything, but we wanted to look at the top 3 issues because we're looking at the fact that we're getting older, our legacies are important, our families are important, and we need to be very, very proactive in seeking help, taking advice, finding out what our family history of healthcare is, because that's very important in being, helping our physicians to understand any traits, DNA traits, or things of that nature. So I think this conversation is going to take us in a lot of different directions, but I'm concerned about Black men being around for their families. And that's primarily it. So thank you again. The Monitors Club will continue to serve in any way that we can to support the organization. And most importantly, be present. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby.
And I have one comment before I introduce Mr. Park.
Yes, sir.
When Diana and I talked about this, I also made very clear to Henry, he's not getting this award because he's my friend. You know, I was real clear about that. You ain't getting this award because you're my friend. You know, and Hugh Man has made it clear that we only give awards to treasures in our community. And so we want you to know
Thank you.
that you're a treasure. Okay.
That is true. That is true, Clarence. And I think everybody ought to know that. This isn't because you know us. It's because you're a treasure. And that's the word Diana uses a lot.
Yeah.
And it's important to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So I think, and congratulations to everyone, because everyone is a treasure who we were able to honor today and in the past. I think we're moving on to announcements. I think that Clarence, you're starting us off.
Yeah, I got one thing to do. I have to introduce Mr. Park, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So Diana received this request from Mr. Park, who was a PhD student at Ohio State University. And he was studying university community partnerships, and he was currently investigating the history, process, and impact of the University of Minnesota UROC, which involved the North Minneapolis area. And so he was very, very interested in learning more about that. And we invited him to come and have a couple of words. I do want to just share with him, Mr. Park, I don't know if you've met Mr. Sean Lewis yet, but he would be one person that you would definitely want to meet. to talk about. He is called the Minister of Information. And so just want you to know that. So if you want to know something, go talk to Sean. But we'd like to have a couple words from you as you're talking about your project, please.
Okay, yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Seungdin Park, as introduced, and I'm a doctoral student from the Ohio State University. I am, my research seeks to assess the university's community engagement processes, and practices, and their impact that universities have brought in the community. So, like the University of Minnesota's University Northside Partnership, if any of you remember that, and the operation of UROC. Is one of my study cases. So, and since I'm very new to Minneapolis, and also since I would like to cherish community voices of about how the community sees the impacts of the university, I would like to talk with a lot of community leaders and residents about this. So my questions will include the history of the University of Northside Partnership and Europe, and the processes and the relationship with the university, and your own views and perspectives of what and how the university did in this neighborhood. So I am interested in broadly North Minneapolis areas, but due to my limitations and due to the processes, I am more focusing on the near north community, including Hawthorn, Jordan, Willard, Hay, and near north. So I'm currently staying in one of the Airbnb units in Willard, Hay to get interactions and to communicate with as many people as possible. So if you're interested, I will leave my email. So please get me touch it, and also I will be happy to talk with you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, sir, and we will have our conversation on Tuesday. Miss Ann, before you introduce our main speaker, I just need to say I'm so pleased that this man is here, because I finally get to see him again. So I'll let you go ahead and introduce my friend.
All right. I am delighted to introduce our featured speaker today. And this is the time when we get to hear from someone in our community and hear what they're doing and working on, and then have a discussion. So we're looking forward to that today. I think many of you know our new Public Safety Commissioner, Todd Barnett. He comes to us from the Hennepin County Court, from the District Court, where he was the Chief Judge of Hennepin County Court. Last September, Mayor Fry appointed him as the second Public Safety Commissioner to the City of Minneapolis. He oversees the police, fire, 911, neighborhood safety, and potentially I missed one department, but he can correct me, and that's just fine and dandy. I met with him a little bit ago, enjoyed our conversation immensely, felt like we were in good hands. He comes to us as a former judge, prosecutor, and defense attorney. So he comes with a really wide array of experience in the criminal justice world, which is not common. It's kind of uncommon. But he's done a lot of good work in those worlds, but he's also done a lot of volunteer work, knows the community really well. And I think we've got, maybe I shouldn't do this because it's sort of jumping over, but I think we got a treasure. So I'm really pleased to introduce the City of Minneapolis Public Safety Commissioner, Judge, but not Judge now, Todd Barnett. Welcome, Judge.
Well, thank you. Good morning. Good to see you, Mr. Crosby. It's been a long time. I didn't know I had to go after all of the treasures here. So that makes me humble already. And good to see you, Ms. Hawkins, as well. So if you guys don't know, Ms. Hawkins was appointed to the Charter Commission. What was it? It was during COVID, wasn't it? I think it was.
It was during COVID. I'm on my last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's one of the duties of chief judges, that you get to appoint people to the charter commissions in Hennepin County. So that's been great. I thought what I would do this morning is talk a little bit about my background, The question that I get asked the most is, why did you take this job? So I'll answer that up front quickly for you guys as well. And then I'll talk a little bit about community safety and in each department, where we are, and then really want to feel your questions and what you're interested in. So my background is I am a transplant here to Minnesota. I came here in 1989 to go to law school at the University of Minnesota. A lot of people, I think Rochelle Olson wrote about this when I was chief judge. And so some of you might know this. When I came here in '89, it was not my first time in Minnesota. My father, when I was younger, was in prison up at Sandstone Federal Prison in Minnesota. So I do remember coming to Minnesota. I don't remember much about the weather, so I'm assuming my mom brought me up here during the spring or summertime, because I don't remember the winter. But I can tell you, I do remember my first winter here as an adult in '89, when I thought everyone was crazy driving around when there was 4 inches of snow. But that's a different story. So I got here '89, and like Ann said, ended up being a law clerk in the public defender's office, and then an attorney and supervisor. And I left there and I went to the county attorney's office and worked there for a bit. And after that, was a judge for the last 17 and a half years. And so that's sort of my path here. Give you a little bit about why did I take this job. And I have to go back to my law school time in, I believe it was '91. And I'm here in Minnesota. I was living in Seven Corners across from the law school. And my grandmother called me and she said, "Hey, we finally got them." And she was referring to Rodney King and the video of Rodney King. And she said, "We finally have it on video." And I bring that up because that came to mind when I was considering this job, because many years later, she said, "Remember, we had this conversation about the video on Rodney King?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "It didn't make a difference." And so that always stuck with me. And as you guys know, we had the Chauvin trial when I was chief judge here. And the difference that I feel more than any point in my lifetime is that we have a time in history right now where there's a move for change, and that change is not just with a particular organization or department or an office, but now the change is by community, organizations, local government, national government, that is really a lot of different entities and a lot of people who want change. And so this moment is important. So I say that to say, that part of this job, I probably wouldn't have taken, because I've been here long enough where there's been a lot of different legislative groups and reports and things like that related to community safety, and they've made progress. But we were still in the situation that we were, prior to '91 and all the way up until the point we are now, where we continue to have a lot of violence against people of color. And so that really stuck with me. And that's one of the reasons I took the job. To give you some background into my family life, is that my daughter's a junior at University of Northern Iowa, and my son is a freshman at Gus Davis. And you go, "Why did I tell you that?" I'm telling you that because when I told my wife that I wanted to pursue this job, my son was about 2 weeks into being at Gus Davis, and her response was, Todd, we've been empty nesters for 2 weeks. 2 weeks we've been empty nesters, and you want that job? Yes, I do. And so that was another sort of funny moment to me, but don't feel sorry for her. She's fine. And so those behind that is some of the reasons: support from family, support from community, the significance of the time that we're in really wanted me to pursue this job. So I'll talk a little bit about community safety and where I think we are in each of the departments under me. But I'll take a step back and just say, when Mayor Fry and I was meeting and he was interviewing me for the job, one of the things that I pressed upon him was that I would not take this job if I didn't have discretion. And that was discretion because community safety is not just in the 5 departments that I supervise, which is fire, police, 911, neighborhood safety, and emergency management. And so it's beyond that. And you heard Mr. Crosby talk about, health, and so community safety touches health departments. I have to be able to talk to them about addiction and what is our responses to that. And so there's a lot more than just the 5 departments. And so my task, which is a huge task, is that to have a comprehensive approach to community safety. And so how do we do that? Well, prior to me getting here, there was a report called the Minneapolis Safe and Thriving Communities Report that some of you might be familiar with. And that report really was authored by Dr. Arthatelli, who's a Minnesotan, but he's a professor at Harvard. And so he really talked about this community safety ecosystem. And I'll kind of dense his, I think, 150-page report down to this. What he says is you have to have preventive services, responsive services, and restorative services, and that no one in the United States does that well. They might do 1 or 2 of those well. And so my task is to get us in Minneapolis to do all 3 well. And so we are looking at, and we have a contract with the University of NYU Law School project. I think that contract just got signed, in which they're going to look at not just the city services, but look at the county and the state services and say, okay, here are areas in which you've done well. Here's the areas that have gaps. And so we know that our response in any area of the city could look different depending on where you live. And so we want to make sure we have the appropriate response to any situation, and that those responses are equitable around the city and appropriate. And so those are the things that we look at and things that we need to build up. So the way that I explain this to people is that neighborhood safety, which you guys might remember as the Office of Crime, I think is Crime Prevention. We really need to build up our neighborhood safety department under me. And so that's where a lot of our crime prevention contracts are. When you think of behavioral crisis team, BCR, their contract is there. You think of any of our crime prevention, like group violence intervention or anything like that, all that's really under neighborhood safety. And so that department really, that infrastructure really needs to be built up. When you look at the police department, staffing is the key issue there. There's no, I don't care what you say about it. Our Minneapolis police officers are going from call to call to call. I did a ride along last Friday. I've listened to their radios from home. They are at a point where we cannot sustain this type of service because they don't have time to engage with citizens. They don't have time to decompress. And so we can't sustain that long term. They're doing an amazing job right now, but we can't sustain that long term. The examples that I will give you are quick from my ride along. You can hear an officer say, another call would go out as long as it's not a priority one call where it's an emergency for them to get to right away. You will hear them say, I can get to that call when I'm done with this one. Right? So no one's responding to a low priority call right away. And I know citizens get frustrated by that. That's because they're going from call to call to call. And that's just not sustainable. When you look at our fire department staffing levels are at a good place. They need to go up, but we need to get back to a level of having more female firefighters. We can do better in that area, and we need to get more females involved, especially more females of color. If you did watch the news or didn't watch the news last night, St. Paul got their first African-American woman, I think she's a captain, yesterday was on the news, which is fantastic. We need more women here in Minneapolis. When you look at our Office of Emergency Management, think of that. Most people don't know about that office, but think of that office as they will do trainings and things like that for us to be prepared as a city. And also they do trainings for citizens to be prepared for disasters, whether those are natural disasters or hazardous disasters. And so that department, we're going to do some changes there, but staffing is pretty good. But what I want to do there is really bring them into the fold when we have these major events, because we have a lot of events here, but we don't have emergency management there and part of that process of if something happens. We always have police and fire, but we need emergency management there. 911, which under me, again, staffing is an issue there. We need more people there. We need more people of color in our 911 area. And so those are the 5 departments that I have. Those are some of the issues there in which, just trying to make you aware of them. I am willing to take questions. I don't want to talk all of the time that I have. I want to get to questions that you want to know about. So.
Well, I think, Ann, you should start the discussion. Ann, you want to start the discussion?
Yes. First, let's ask if anybody has any questions as a starting point, or anything that you want more clarity about, or something you want to hear about that you didn't hear about. Robert.
Hi, thank you. It was great hearing from you. Not so much a question, but just I'd be negligent if I didn't make a pitch, which is to remember the important role of neighborhood organizations across the city. And I don't think people are aware that neighborhood organizations, it was a group of neighborhood organizations over 30 years ago, and I was part of this, really brought restorative justice to Minneapolis and really developed it. And also way back 30 years ago, we're also pushing for reform of the police when we were noticing issues going on, and pushing for more community-oriented policing, and to really build more close partnerships and relationships between the police and the community. And so I think the neighborhood organizations have really been way out front, way out ahead of the city in terms of doing some of these programs. And also for years worked closely with the city on what were called community safe teams, and also the programs like Weed and Seed. So neighborhood organizations have really been key. And also in terms of emergency response, after the 2011 tornado, one of my roles when I was working at the city was to work with neighborhood organizations on organizing, among other things, a fund to help fill gaps in for people who were being left behind by some of the emergency funds from the federal and state government. But also neighborhoods did a lot of outreach and door knocking, and put NRP funds into restoring houses that again didn't get assistance. But the last thing too is one of the I forget the name of the report, the after action report. One of the after action reports after the 2020 riots. One of the first things they noted was the city could have done a lot better job of communicating through neighborhood organizations. That was really neglected. And so there was a lot of poor communication. Again, I was part of the tornado recovery team in 2011, and the very day after the tornado, one of the first things I was doing was, working with the city's community response team to help communicate to neighborhood organizations to say, here's what's going on. Here's some of the needs. They're putting together a site for collecting things that are needed, generators, diapers, food, for helping the community, and neighborhood organizations across the city responded. And that simply was absent in 2020. So I hope you'll really be aware and recognize that neighborhood organizations and community organizations can be a really, really important resource that, again, I feel the city has just lost track of. So I just want to bring that to your attention, that there's a long, long history there and an important partnership.
Yeah, I agree with that. The after action report that you referred to about the communication part, I think, Mr. Thompson, I think you and I think a lot of other people will be happy to know that since January of 2023, the city over 11 different exercises to get better at the response to natural disasters, to social unrest. And at the end of this month, a lot of us will be out in Maryland at a FEMA complex to, again, get more training, make sure that we're aligned with how we're communicating, how we're requesting resources, how we're responding to citizens in time of a crisis. And so we are training our staff. We're doing a better job in that area to address the recommendations from that after action report.
Robert, you got us off on the right foot. Thank you so much. April, Mayor Graves.
I'm not mayor in this capacity, but thank you, Ann.
I know, but you know how I like to just.
I just kind of wanted to follow up on some of the comments that were made. I work for the Neighborhood Safety Department. Hello, Commissioner Barnett.
Hey,
and I
April.
think some of the things that were brought up around neighborhoods are really important. I will say that, I've made a really strong effort with my work within the Neighborhood Safety Department to connect with neighborhood organizations as well as business associations. So I offer a quarterly training on violence prevention community champions. And over the last 2 years have trained almost 200 different community members from at least 11 different neighborhood in Minneapolis, primarily the ones most affected by violence. There's been, I think, about 51 different community organizations represented in that 200 people. as well as some business associations. So the work is happening. I think it would be helpful for me to have a little bit more access to, being able to build relationships across, the city with more people within the city besides just myself, and more individuals within the communities, the Office of Community Safety. But I agree, the community is going to be best able to respond to the issues that are coming up, and can be really effective partners with the city. I just kind of wanted to say that, that work is happening. It may not be as robust as we'd like it to be, but it is happening. And I feel really proud of the connections and the relationships I've been able to build and sustain over the last few years working for the Office of Violence Prevention originally, and now the Neighborhood Safety Department.
Thank you, April.
I have a question.
Yes, Miss Mary.
Probably a question comment. I know as one working in the area, bringing restorative practices into the school system and working with teachers and staff, as well as other professionals throughout the community, that once crisis happens, whether you've been trained or partially trained or not in restorative practices, it's hard to keep in mind not to gray the line depending on where you came from in your work with punitive versus restorative, especially in crisis moments. And how do you help assure that those who are faced with so many crises, one after the other, does not get burned out from that work? And then once they're in action, the restorative piece seems to fade away if you've been grounded in punitive measures.
Yeah, great question. One of the big things that's come out of the Minnesota Human Rights Settlement Agreement, especially around the police, is that it focuses in on wellness and the wellness of our officers. One thing that I've kind of pressed upon as we've looking at this is that it's just not the wellness of the officers, it's the wellness of all of those folks within community safety. So I know that from the report, the settlement agreement, it is focused on police officers, but we have to focus beyond that, the wellness of our 911 folks who are taking those calls all the way through the line. Even, and April could attest to this, even within neighborhood safety, even the work that they're doing, a lot of trauma-informed work, we need to make sure that they are in a position where they're healthy as well. As far as the restorative part, I'll say this. I think that we are really looking at what is the appropriate response when something happens, right? So for instance, right now through neighborhood safety, and I mentioned it earlier, there's the BCR, the Behavioral Crisis Team, that someone calls 911 and the response, if it's a mental health situation that they can manage, that instead of dispatching the police, we're dispatching BCR folks to address that mental health need, right? So it's not the police going there, where I agree with you. It could end up being punitive because of the way that they might look at the situation and look at charges. Instead of that, we have mental health professionals going there to talk to people. And so having that type of response, I think, is important. They did over, I think for 2023, I think they did maybe, I think somewhere 9,700 or so. I know it's in the 9,000 responses that they had for 2023. That means that at least the majority of those responses, no police officer had to go, right? And so it's having that appropriate response and getting them to the right services that's important. So I think that kind of takes it out of the punitive realm. So I think if we continue to do the work that is being done in neighborhood safety, I think we can be in a better place overall, because that's where a lot of that work will happen.
You know, I was very happy to hear you talk about when we met privately with Karen Moe and then in your talk today about how much importance you place on neighborhood safety, because I do think that that is the place to spend time. And I've worked with the neighborhood safety department, and we do an outreach team that works with the neighborhood safety department, which April's been part of in the past as well. And people all know Diana's son is our lead outreach person at Henry High School. And I've seen the difference it makes, especially with young people, to engage with them rather than to just sort of like ignore them, which is what some people think you should do. And so I just want to let people know that in May, the director of neighborhood safety, Luana Nelson Brown, is going to be our featured speaker. And so please let folks know, because she's going to come and talk a little bit about the work that they're doing as well. So I think that'll be a good conversation for us to have. But Commissioner, I have to say, it was very heartening to me to hear you say that about neighborhood safety and how much emphasis you want to place there. Because I think people get tied up in the police enforcement thing because it's such a big thing. But honestly, it's working with the people, and we know that from working with young people, that when you talk to the young people and you help them and they help other young people, we've seen it happen where we've talked to young people about something happening downtown, and then all of a sudden they're talking to other young people and they're taking care of their own business, and we kind of become irrelevant because they're talking to each other. And so thank you for that, for having that kind of leadership in your role. I think it's really critical.
Yeah, thank you. You know, the idea is we don't want people to have interaction with the police. We don't want that interaction, you know, going back to Mary's point about, you know, restorative justice and things like that. If we can do that preventive work up front, you know, I think that's so important for us. So, yes.
Yeah. Other comments or questions, anybody wants to say? I think April just put the link in the chat to the community neighborhood safety department.
You know, if I could say one thing while you guys think of a question, one of the things that I think is important for the neighborhood groups, and I don't care what side you are on an issue, but what I see so far in my 4 months here is when it comes to the city council, the same people show up. They're very organized. I think that I don't think they're the majority of the citizens in Minneapolis, but they're very organized and they are loud. And we need more citizens. We need more diverse opinions than a small group of people. So I just encourage people to really look at what's happening, look at what the issues are. Have it, you know, if you have a different voice, please let it be known, because I just feel as though my time's there, I see the same groups appear over and over again. And I just don't believe that on some of these issues, that's the majority of the folks in Minneapolis as I go around and talk to people.
I think you're right. Susan, did you want to, you unmute?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the status right now of Black clubs? We're really active where I live over here on 22nd and DuPont, Emerson, that area. But what is the status? Because I don't see notices coming out to us per se. We work with our crime prevention specialists, but what is the overall status of those groups in the city right now?
You know, Susan, I don't know. That's the first time someone's asked me that question. I'll have to find out and get that answer to you.
I will remind people about something kind of related, Susan, but not as eloquently as Diana could, except Diana can hardly speak today. This huddle started as a response in a neighborhood. And the power of neighborhoods is amazing. So just a reminder that this is 27 years of a neighborhood.
Right. Yeah, I've been involved that long. Thank you.
Yeah, I know you have, Susan, and so I don't want to say a lot because I'm the newcomer, but I know a lot of you have been. I just want to remind us of that. Are there any other comments or questions for Commissioner Barnett? We're getting near the end of our time. Just wanted to make sure that everybody got in what they wanted to say. Diana.
Clarence, can I ask you to talk about next Saturday, please?
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. You're welcome to stay.
All right.
We're doing some
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day. Thanks.
You too.
Diana, at my age, you better tell me what I'm supposed to be talking about. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's happening next Saturday?
Yes, kit and mask giveaway with the clubs.
Oh yeah. So Hawthorn is going to be once again opening up its offices to be giving away mask kits and COVID tests. And so we want to let the community know that, and I think the time is it 11? 11 to 2. So it's one of those things where, we know that COVID is rising again. We're talking about long COVID. And so we want to make sure that the community is invited to come in and to receive their, to get their mask or their COVID kits if they need it. And they can also, find out this information on our website as well. So just pass it on so that if people are interested, we're more than happy to make sure that they're provided with those things.
And tomorrow, if you're up around the Capri Theater, you will see there's a big conference of youth professionals, youth work professionals who are going to be having their annual Partners with Youth conference there. So they will be there at the Capri Theater tomorrow. And a reminder that next month, April 4th, the Huddle will feature our Public Health Commissioner, Damone Chaplin, who is going to be talking about public health, his perspective on public health, which is a very comprehensive view of public health. I think Clarence knows him. They've met before. And he's going to talk about that, and he's going to talk about Public Health Month. Mm-hmm. So I think you're going to want to come and hear what he has to say. And then Luana will be here in May. So we've got a couple of months planned out. So anybody else have any announcements you want to let us know about today? Thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate you being here. Diana, get well. And everybody else, don't get sick.
Okay.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Bye.
Feel better. Feel better.